Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new marketing webinar. Today, we are going to talk about how to become a love brand. We have here Amy, Zoltan, and Hami. Maybe a quick hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
We can already see some faces. So you as attendees are all unmute, so you can't unfortunately speak, but of course you can use the chat to write to us and submit your questions. And if you are not comfortable with cameras, of course you can switch that off. It's up to you. So my name is Delphine Benedict. I'm in charge of marketing at Territory Influence. So Territory Influence is your full service influencer marketing partner. We are part of Bertelsmann Group, and our mission, super shortly, is to place humans at the core of marketing strategies by always providing the best solutions for brands to collaborate with relevant influencers and generate a business impact. So within the same agency, we have today Zoltan, our influence marketing expert. He is one of our executive directors and managing the client service department. For our partners, so today we have Talkwalker. Hamidib is the marketing executive. So also short description for Talkwalker. So the company delivers social insights that help brands build growth. Its listening and analytics tools help companies to protect their brands, measure their impact, and gain key consumer insights and activate voice of consumers to drive purchasing decisions. And we also have today, so actually the honor to have for the very first time a content creator, so Amy from the Instagram account Live with the Rogers. So we are going to have a live interview with her later on, so she's going to share even more insights regarding influencer marketing. And actually, before we go on and proceed with our agenda, I would love to get some insights from you, our today's audience, to collect your opinions regarding the most loved industries. So you should be able to access within the chat a quick poll with different options, different responses. So please do submit your answers, and later on, Hami from Talkwalker will reveal the actual most loved industry, product category, and then the brands that go along for 2021. And of course, delivering the why. I think this is what is most interesting for all of us today. As you can see, after a quick introduction, so after defining what is the love brand and why it is super important for you as marketers to work and build brand love, we are going to explain the ingredients for brand success. And Zoltan will afterwards focus on one of the keys to success, the influencer marketing. Within that section, actually, we will interview Amy, and afterwards I will come back for a quick summary, and then we will have the chance to answer all of your questions during an approximately 10-minute Q&A sessions. So again, do not hesitate to use the chat to submit all of your questions. We will take the time to answer them all. Final information, the webinar is being recorded at the moment, so a replay video and also the PDF deck will be shared with you later today per email. And in case you do not receive it, it's going into your spam inbox or anything happens, you also have my contact details, benedict.delphine@territory.group, to answer all of your questions. That being said, I'm going to leave the mic to Hami to explain why being a love brand matters in 2021.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Delphine, for the kind introduction, and I'm very excited to be here today with the Zoltan and everyone, the attendees. Brand love is an exciting topic, really. It's always been a very much an important metric for brands to measure and to keep track of, especially during a year that COVID-19 kind of upended everything that we knew about marketing, really, and advertising, and about how people consume digital media. I mean, unlike brand affinity or loyalty or engagement, all those metrics, brand love is far more powerful, creating those long-term connections with consumers, with brands, and it's just like a trust-based relationship, really. And you have to think about it. You're dealing with humans. People are not a monolith. Consumers are not being you should not look at your consumers as a solid entity, but rather nowadays brand love is enabling you to kind of cater to each their specific needs, to their how they can interact with your brand and how they tell you about your brand and how they feel about it. Basically the perception. And in a nutshell, basically why brands must prioritize brand love is basically to drive forward that brand loyalty and turn your one-time consumer into a long-term brand advocate. So people who are willing to defend your brand, willing to be your voice, be your insights, to actually give their time to you. So to create this two-way relationship. You see the second point here is advocacy, really. I mean, people who are advocating for your brand are more likely to talk about your brand in a positive light. They're more likely to give positive word of mouth to their colleagues, to their friends, to their circles. And we all know the importance of word of mouth in today's relationship-based marketing. So consumers are much more complex than ever. You can't really trick them with a flashy ad or with an attractive campaign or someone with an influencer. Really, no, it's not just that. It goes beyond that. You have to highlight the value really of your product, of the service that you're providing, and you also have to embed their voice in it. They have to be involved in every step of making that product or that marketing marketing campaign. So it's not just a matter of making the sexiest ad campaign or the packaging is nice or everything, but no, they need to know that consumers are heard and their considerations are being taken into in the decision-making process, and which that ultimately leads to premium pricing. And we all know that we all have a brand or two that we kind of are more willing to pay more for it, even though it's the same thing. Look at it from if you're buying a bottle of water. It's water at the end of the day, but you want to pay more for a certain brand just because it looks nice, because it makes you feel a bit of a status symbol, like kind of superiority, if you want to call it. And again, I mean, brand love is nothing entirely new, but nowadays we saw its important rise to the top. We are now, with the technology that we have, we are now capable of measuring and kind of tracking how that develops over time. And the pandemic was also the inflection point that kind of drove that. And I think this kind of covers why brands are like prioritizing brand love in this day and age. Really, you see all those companies putting love, with travel restrictions, with face-to-face interactions dropping. So they have to rewrite the contract with the consumers. Really, and it's through times of crisis. Delphine, can you still hear me? Yeah. I mean, what I was saying is actually during times of crisis, people are engaging with your brand differently, and the brands are realizing that there's a shift in this behavior. People are much more critical about brands. They are much more vocal about what the brand does, and they have the tools. In one day they can put a TikTok and maybe move this cup of coffee here, and then there's all this ripple effect. So brands are much more aware of this seismic shift. For example, some of the most important disruptions happening this year was the fact that people are locked down at home. People are more looking towards bargains. People are more becoming looking for trustworthy and genuine brands rather than simply brands that fulfill their needs. And also, I mean, there are obviously, it's all not all negative, but there are also opportunities that arise from that newly written contract, newly formed relationship. Basically, brands had to adapt, obviously, and they started looking at other markets. And for example, we see a lot of the brands that were operating mainly in Europe and the US shifting their view towards the APAC markets, towards Australasia, towards Southeast Asia, India, maybe China, Japan, all those markets, because they were coming out of the pandemic earlier than the rest of the world. So we see these opportunities being in the APAC market, as well as in the e-commerce section of things. People are, much more diligent with how they buy, and with that comes more data. So they're leveraging this increased use of e-commerce and kind of this direct consumer channel. In addition to PR, brand stories, and power of influencers, basically. Influencers are really an interesting use case, which I think my friend here, Zoltan, will be able to tell us more about, really, and how brands leverage that, arena, basically. However, I think from my perspective, as a consumer and as someone who's working in marketing, consumers add a layer of transparency and legitimacy. And I think my friend here, Zoltan, can add more to that topic.
Thank you very much, Rami. Also from myself, a very warm welcome and good morning to everyone. Well, I know most of you have it warm because of the summer heat wave. At least here in Budapest, it was 32 degrees already at 9 o'clock in the morning. But apart from the warm welcome, I also hope you have a good morning, and we will be able to contribute to this with an interesting and useful webinar about brand love and influencer marketing. Fueling a little bit the heat further, we are going to talk about a very hot topic today. Although the notion of love brands has been around for many years, the role of influencer marketing in creating these deep connections between consumers and brands is something very recent, as influencer marketing has been gaining on momentum only in the past couple of years. The numbers, however, talk for themselves, as 62% of marketers intend to increase their influencer marketing budget in 2021, and 40% plan to spend at least 20% of their total budget on influencer marketing. Almost $14 billion of investments is expected in 2021, and in 2020, a 12% increase of influencer marketing campaigns was recorded. A very interesting aspect of influencer marketing, which cannot be disregarded, is that 57% of Instagrammers have less than 15,000 followers. There is a clear rise in the past years in the importance of nano and micro influencers. But we will talk about this a little bit later. But what I can tell you already up front, a little bit of a teaser, is that size actually matters, but maybe not in a way that you might think. So does short-term versus long-term matter too. There is a clear trend recently that more and more one-off influencer corporations are replaced by long-term partnerships, and companies realize that building such relations are much more advantageous for the brands. Let us look at the reasons why companies invest so much into this new type of media. Despite, or maybe even much rather because of the worldwide pandemic, the role of influencers has increased in our unnormal lives. This is because influencers are a new way of entertainment. They provide us with fun and informative content, even in the most boring times of a lockdown. Influencers can also adjust to new situations rather quickly, thus providing us always with fresh and relevant topics or news. And a good influencer is very sensitive about what his or her follower base needs, thus keeping the content always relevant, and in many cases even going as far as wanting to help the community. Today, we will look at how companies can invest into influencers to create brand love. And with this, I now hand over to Rami from Talkwalker, who will show us the world's top love brands and what made them become this.
Thank you, Zoltan. Just a little, tidbit for our attendees today. If you have any questions, sure to put them in the Q&A section. I'm sure that we'll have time at the end to answer them. However, I am very proud and excited to announce that we have recently published one of our flagship reports about brand love 2021. It's our second edition of this report, and we look at the concept of brand love, what it means, and why should brands prioritize in this day and age. So just to give you a bit of background on the methodology. So last year, what we did is looked at brand mentions and the overall sentiment around brands. However, this year we incorporated much more scientific or many more dimensions to studying brand love, like looking at CSR activities, looking at PR, looking at influencer marketing, etc. A lot of elements put together so that we can have an index view of how the brand was being perceived and how people were engaging. So during the time period that we looked at, the data basically is between July 22nd, 2020 obviously, and April 1st, 2021. We think this period was representative of the shift really between before vaccines and after the vaccines were being rolled out, and how people are kind of shifting throughout that. So, during the pandemic, during vaccination, and kind of emerging out of that. And we have analyzed over 1,200 brands, which is a very significant number, highlighting how big the amount of data that we have to crunch. And just FYI, we analyzed both brands big and small, and it's really not a matter of size. And going back to Zoltan's idea that size doesn't matter, because a brand love is not determined by the number of employees, or by your budget, or by your it really goes back to the human element. It's about effort that you make, and about showing the customers or your consumers that you really are listening to them and are catering to their needs. So we've analyzed over 30 industries between beauty, FMCG, between automotive, telecom, manufacturing, and many others. You'd be surprised just how wide those industries were considered. And we finally have 153 brands shortlisted. Among them, 50 are the top 50 brands in the world. And from each local submarket, we have the top 10 markets. So including the DACH region, the Middle East, Africa region, UK, France, Latin America, and et cetera, et cetera. So basically, the four pillars that those metrics fall under are the engagement rate, sentiment, joy-related messages, and love-related messages. So as we all know, people express love in different ways, and there's no one-size-fits-all. So what people sometimes post is it could be a photo of the package that they got from their favorite store, or it could be a tweet with just a heart, for example, or a comment on YouTube, or it could be something very, very even a meme, for example. So all of these formats are taken into consideration as a form of love, and our proprietary technology is capable of sorting all these different sources into one place and giving you a holistic view of all that. And moving on to the report itself, I'm very excited to announce that this year the most loved brands are fall into those industries, as I mentioned here, fashion and beauty. However, there is a particular increase in the need for infotainment. And infotainment here could mean anything. It could be your Netflix subscription, to watching I'm calling them TikTok Reels, but they're just TikToks, Instagram Reels or whatnot. Or it could be even the fact that you're doing social e-commerce. So we have a lot of these happening in the Southeast Asian market, where you have an influencer on camera selling your product that's actively selling all those products and all that. So infotainment is a very growing field, and people are looking basically for escapism. People are looking for a distraction, really. And the fact that the YouTube and all those social media platforms have improved their algorithms to match the consumer's needs is somewhat a driving element to that. Also, we found an interesting insight that people are much more buying and engaging with brands that have to do with household and food-related brands, basically. So think of how people were at the early days of the pandemic, when they were baking bread, when they were doing all those funny recipes, DIY cookies or whatever. And that kind of continued on as people were still being at home, trying to experiment with new foods and explore new hobbies. And it could be, all those cleaning hacks or whatnot, because it's not just food, it's also about household items as well. So think electronics, think stuff that you can find at home. And as you can see here on the right side of the screen, this is extracted directly from a report. Fashion and beauty took the biggest chunk of representation in the report, and which makes sense. People were not spending their money as much as they do in normal life. They were basically spending it on themselves, trying to soothe their anxiety, trying to buy things that they would not normally buy, spend a little premium price on brands that they want to show off or whatnot, especially as more and more people are kind of going back to the office, as well as leisure and entertainment. And this could be under the umbrella of online subscriptions, audio, podcasts, any sort of content that could be consumed, really. And now moving on to the most loved brands, and I think most of us here are excited. As you can see, without any further introduction, Huda Beauty is the most loved brand for this year, according to our Love Brand report. Huda Beauty, for those who don't know, is one of the leading beauty and makeup brands that have emerged in recent years as really, it was driven by Huda Qattan, an influencer who started the brand on her own, and she knew from the start that community at the heart of her operation is the driving force to her brand, and she constantly made sure to put the consumers and the people first. So it was not about data being data driven. It's not about being product driven. It's not about having the sexiest website or using all those social media visuals. No, she made sure that the consumers and the community were always on top of everything. And I will talk more about Huda Beauty's use case as well moving forward. Then the second one is Mulinex, which is going back to the idea of people leveraging these electronics to bake, to cook, because they're staying at home more often, and as well as a Mac. It's a very interesting year, definitely. Because last year compared to last year, it was the number one most loved brand was Lego, and we see the shift this year going back to the consumer products, going back to the individual rather than the overall community, which is a very interesting shift to see on this level. And I think we can move forward to what other regions, because what we see as like there is no one size fits all when it comes to love, really. Each market has specific needs, has a different way of perceiving a brand, and it's a very interesting thing to look at, especially if we're comparing between the UK, Benelux, Italy, and DACH. So, for example, in the UK, funny enough, it's Cadbury. I know, it's chocolate. It's people are much more in need of those self-soothing mechanisms. However, in Benelux or in DACH, Obi, I always like the example of Obi because it's not one of those first brands that comes up to your mind, but like it makes complete sense. People were fixing their fences, fixing DIY projects, looking at YouTube to fix the flooring or whatever. So it really reflects what's happening in real life, and looking at the data, it's very showing. And all those brands leverage that brand love, because as you all know, some of those brands were not very much online first. They had for example, Parmigiano Reggiano. It's cheese, right? So most of their it's magnificent, and it goes to show the importance of really being proactive rather than reactive. So all those brands here were capable of seizing the opportunity and kind of activating the voice of the customer as they learn. And obviously, it's not they didn't get it right from day zero. Basically, they kept iterating and changing and adapting and listening and repeating the process until they got it right. And brand love is not something that you get in one day. It's exactly like a relationship. It's a meticulous process that requires effort. So moving on to the topic of how did the marketers manage to succeed in 2021? And as I mentioned, that brand love consists of multiple elements, and it really depends on how you define brand love, and it really depends on your end goal. And at the end of the day, you need to know your customer. You can no longer expect competitive advantage or to be able to develop any sort of product or sort of marketing strategy. And it goes to all elements of your business operations. You have to be a customer-centric organization from within first, and then from the outside, obviously. It could be from doing any sort of aspirational messaging, and doing fostering the community, doing positive PR. Employee advocacy, as we all know, is a very driving force. So I'm doing employee advocacy today, wearing the Talkwalker brand on my hoodie. Sponsorship, as we know, for example, Huda Katan was. So all these combined, it's not just one thing; it's an ongoing thing, ongoing process that is. Shifting and transitioning across markets, across audiences, that kind of helps marketers to navigate this space. And really, it's a very human-to-human marketing. And I always like to stress on that element, because people, when they talk about marketing, it's B2C, B2B, and kind of forget that they're communicating with the humans. Really, if you're doing B2B marketing, at the end of the day, it's a human who's doing the decision. Really, it's not really because at the end of the day, also the consumer is the human. Really, it's the employee who's going to be using your product. And yeah, so let me just delve more into about Huda Katan. Huda Katan, as I mentioned, is a very famous influencer that emerged, back in 2013. And she is now one of the leading brands in beauty, even competing against all the global brands that you've known in many years. And it just goes to show that social media is a real force, and influencers have power of change, and they do have the power to change for the good. So Huda Khatan realized that early on, and she recently, if I'm not mistaken, she recently quit her position as CEO in September to focus on the product and to focus on community and giving back. And that really translates to their numbers, really, and to see how people are engaging. So, for example, she moved her, I think she did the campaign of, I completely forgot right now, but I think we'll talk about it afterwards. But as you can see here, she moves from position number 27 from last year, and now she's position number 1. So brand love, as you can see, is a very shifting thing. You can easily move from being the most loved brand in one day and become the most hated brand. God forbid, but like it just goes to show that it's a living, breathing relationship. And now moving in with Mulinex, which is a second brand that I'd like to highlight. Really, it's a French kitchen appliance manufacturer. As we all know, we've all used Mulinex at one point, I'm sure of it, whether we knew it or not. However, with more people becoming more at home and using Mulinex and the logos appearing everywhere on social media, Mulinex realized that early on and tried to build that on that conversation. So they started producing their own content around recipes, around engaging influencers, around engaging celebrity chefs or restaurateurs, and maximizing the impact of user-generated content. Because nowadays, all it takes is, if you've been on TikTok, which I'm sure that most of you have, you can see all those quick 30-second recipes, and all it takes is, putting the appliance on the screen, and that's it. You can become viral. You can get over 1 million views in 1 or 2 days. Add that to the fact that Mulinex is a very active member of society, and they make active efforts towards CSR, towards sustainability, and they have a very clear mission statement on their website, on their communications, and they don't shy away from taking positions. So because nowadays, brands have a responsibility to take a stance on issues, whether that's climate change, whether that's any other hot topic right nowadays. So moving on to MAC Cosmetics, which is another beauty product, a beauty brand, really, which comes to no surprise, really. It moved from position number 24 from last year, and now it's the 3rd most loved brand. And it's really it's a mix between engaging the community through influencers, providing them with infotainment like tutorials on how to do your makeup and how to do your, keep your eyeliner on fleek. But really, and they've leveraged their recent partnership with Blackpink. They're a Korean girl group. They do music, I'm sure. So choosing the right global ambassadors and choosing the right, content strategy combined with their CSR strategy, with the brand loyalty programs, like for example, their pro membership program, is really about being customer centric. So for example, here, what MAC did is exactly giving them exclusive access to new products, to early launches, to discounts. So they're giving back to society, to their community of consumers, really. And all of that combined drives toward brand love, really. And all you need, putting all together, combining all that together, is the influencers, really, which ultimately humanize your strategy, right? And I think here Zoltan and Delphine, maybe you can contribute to that topic here.
Thank you very much, Rami. Very interesting. Thanks for showing us the most loved brands based on your study. And let us now take a look at how influencers can drive the connection between brands and consumers. How can this, what you also mentioned, human approach to marketing establish brand love? Our vision at Territory Influence is to add this particular human aspect into the marketing of our clients, and via this elevate level of relationship between their consumers and products. But why is this human aspect so important? You can already see it on the screen, and I won't read it out loud, but some famous and I suppose very rich person once said this, and basically it's exactly this aspect of influencer marketing, the personal relationship between humans, which helps to create this special bond between a brand and a person too. Just think about your everyday life. If you have a positive relation to someone and this person is talking to you about something, you will listen. You will be open for what this person has to say, and this person will have a positive influence on you. And if this particular topic he or she is addressing is about a brand, then you will be influenced by the person in a way you might not even realize subconsciously. So your personal relationship with the person will have its imprint on your relationship to the brand. So therefore, what we believe is the objective of companies should be to play in this game and to use the power of humans in their brand communication. Maybe you can go to the next slide, Delphine. Thank you. So what we do at Territory Influence is that we help our clients find and activate influencers and also brand advocates, or make influencers into brand advocates. Brand advocates are those consumers who are very satisfied with the brand they have used. They have social influence to share that feedback among the target group and react to brand stimuli. They are more responsive to direct mails, more innovative, and engage more often in market helping behavior. And with their help, with the help of the brand advocates, and with this human aspect, we can make consumers who might maybe have a lower influence rate themselves, but become brand lovers. But how exactly is this done? Before we go into the details, let us take a quick look at what kind of influencers we are talking about. Thank you. I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that size matters, and Rami mentioned that it doesn't matter. So what I meant to say is that size matters in a different way that you might think. So size meaning the reach of potential influencers, it does matter indeed, whether you have big or maybe lower follower numbers, because big influencers, macro influencers, or star influencers, sorry, are very, very good drivers of reach. On the other hand, the smaller influencers, such as nano influencers and micro influencers, might have lower follower numbers, but in the end, because they have a much stronger bond to their community or their friends, they are extremely good in driving up credibility of your communication. Therefore, a very smart way of doing influencer marketing is to activate the whole pyramid of influencers, macro influencers to generate reach, and micro or nano influencers to push up credibility of your message. Another way to categorize influencers was introduced in one of our previous webinars some months ago. A huge scale research we have conducted among influencers together with the Macromedia University in Germany revealed 5 types of influencers based on their values. The model, who likes to be in the spotlight, the world changer, who has a high sense of responsibility. Then we have influencers who are super informative about topics. They are the experts in. And the rationalist sees influencer marketing as his or her job, whereas the storyteller likes to share a lot of personal experiences and stories. We could see that the motivation of influencers can be very different. The better companies understand the influencers they want to work with, the better the relationship between influencer and brand can become. And the better this relationship is, the better your campaign will perform. Understanding influencers makes long-term cooperation with them also much, much smoother. In conclusion, we can say that finding the best suitable influencer for your brand is key for a successful cooperation. So let's take a look at how you can find the best profiles. We at Territory Influence have a defined process for finding these influencers to make sure each client, each brand, each campaign has the best suitable influencers. When we do campaigns with unpaid influencers, who are mostly nano and micro influencers, we usually work on our TR&D platforms. We have thousands of influencers registered on these platforms across Europe. When starting a campaign, we have an open invitation to those community members who fit with the broad target group. When we receive their applications to the campaigns, we ask them to answer basically 3 questions. Question about product and brand to check if their interest is really genuine. We ask them product relevant or campaign specific questions. So these are information we might not have stored in our database, such as dietary preference or hair color, for example. And in the end, we also have a free text application about their motives to take part in the campaign. One of our clients called this motivation letter, and I really like this terminology because it's in essence a piece of writing to convince us why he or she would be a suitable candidate for the campaign. In the next phase of the selection process, we go through all these applications, do a very in-depth screening, and select the best suitable candidates for each of our campaigns. When it comes to paid influencers, we mostly run these campaigns on our InCircles platforms. We always have an individual campaign selection. We do a comparison of the customer target group with the influencer target group. We check the demography of the influencer. The topic of the influencer channel, of course, also plays an important role in the selection process. And then, of course, hard performance metrics such as reach and interaction also play a role, together with the soft ones such as the style and the quality of the channel. And if we do all this properly, following this very thorough selection process for any type of influencer, we can make sure that each campaign and each brand has the right influencers to support it. Today's webinar is about brand love, and we saw from Rami's presentation that influencers do play a significant role in creating brand love. Selecting the right influencer is key for a successful influencer marketing campaign. But apart from selecting the right ones, what else do we have to consider to make our campaign successful? So what are these 3 E's as we define them? So these are expertise, experience, and engagement. With expertise, we turn influencers into really true ambassadors by providing them in-depth details about a product or a service. With experience, we make sure that we maximize the tangibility of a product. So we ideally send them the product so that they can use it themselves, they can experience it themselves. And the same with services. We make them part of the service process so that they understand everything in detail, because really in-depth experience drives a lot of love from consumer sides. And we see that in each and every of our campaign. And then last but not least, engagements. So we offer during our campaigns creative missions and tools to not only engage our influencers, but to also make their followers, their friends engaged in the campaign. Let us now see some of our case studies to show you how we drive these 3 E's within our campaigns and how we do selection within our campaigns. Our first case study is for a chocolate brand by the Belgian retailer Delhaize. With the objective of making people talk, creating online visibility and driving consumers to the store, we have recruited 3,500 nano influencers to generate peer-to-peer recommendations. To drive deep engagement of the participants, we created 4 big moments during the campaign. Only to name 2 examples, these were things like do one good deed a day, ending with a square of everyday happiness chocolate, so that you make also the ones around you happy. Or another example is that guess the origins of Discover Happiness products by using some of the quizzes which we have created for the campaign. Apart from these in-campaign missions, to drive engagement further, we also organized a photo challenge. Each week, the best 3 photos were hacked with the Delicata universe, and an ambassador was interviewed in a blog article. Of course, the hacked photos went completely viral because people like to see their friends in these kind of funny situations, and they are sharing it with the other friends. And the deep engagement of our influencers drove excellent campaign results. As you can see, we generated 795,000 offline reach, an online reach of 1.8 million, and 4.7 thousand influencer content in the form of user-generated content was created on the internet. The next case study is from Germany. This is a campaign we ran between 2019 and 2020 for the fashion brand S. Oliver, in which we activated altogether 147 micro and macro influencers. The campaign consisted altogether of 5 individual campaigns throughout this 2-year period. The influencers shared their personal styling tips for the new S. Oliver seasonal products on Instagram and spread the news across their huge online network. S. Oliver, the company, trusted influencer profiles who are known for their close relationship with their community, authentic user-generated content, and high engagement rate. So we selected basically based on these criteria, the participants. Some of the social media content, including videos and pictures from the campaign, were also integrated on the S. Oliver website, thus generating more reach, traffic, and conversion. In addition to Instagram, the influencers created authentic and very inspiring content on TikTok, showing variations for styling the new seasonal items throughout the years. And in this campaign, we have also applied our social boost solution for the most beautiful and best influencer content to maximize the online visibility through paid impressions. With this solution, you can basically spread the content, increasing its reach to the audiences interested in it, and not only have to rely on organic reach of individual influencer posts. As a result, the campaign delivered very, very well. So over 1.2 million online reach was generated, 1,200 saved contents on social media, and an exceptionally high engagement rate of close to 12% was achieved. Our last case study is from Europe-wide. In this one, we take a look at how a very sensitive and delicate topic can be managed with influencer communication by breaking taboos and making influencers become experts. In France, UK, Hungary, and Germany, we have liberated the word about menstruation with a brand called Libresse. In some markets, it's Nana or Bodyform, through 100% feminine and authentic influencer campaigns. The objectives were to deeply educate women about the products, increase their awareness and visibility, increase the product's awareness and visibility, as well as recruit new consumers through product trials and content. Altogether, 3,500 nano influencers were activated across Europe with different teams formed based on their product needs. All were already using sanitary pads day and night. In France, we had, in addition to the nano influencers, 10 micro influencers who increased the reach of the campaign and also increased the quality of the content generated throughout the campaign. During the campaigns all over Europe, the influencers were turned into brand ambassadors. They received different missions through blog articles and newsletters on our TRNB platforms. After gaining product expertise, they shared their offline experience through social posts and ratings and reviews on the brand website. It was very important for us to select women who had no taboo about their period. The activation month was an opportunity for the teams to freely speak about intimate women care with lip rest as a driver for conversation. This was a really refreshing C2C communication, which led to tremendous results all over Europe. Over 5 million online reach, over 6,600 social posts, and even the brand's e-reputation was improved thanks to over 6,800 ratings and reviews, which we have generated. I think now it's time to hear from one of our campaign heroes about her perspective of influencer marketing. I hand over to Delphine and Amy.
Yes, thank you, Zoltan. Thank you also, Remy. So it's indeed time for live insights. So Amy is one of our UK micro-influencer content creator. And actually, one quick question to start with, Amy. So can you please describe Live with the Rogers on Instagram and also explain to our audience why you decided to become a content creator?
Hi, so thank you very much for having me. I am really excited to talk today. So basically, my name is Amy. I am a content creator for Life with the Rogers. And first of all, it started as a page just for my family, to show my family, to just talk about everyday things. And then it slowly progressed on to lifestyle and fashion. And I think that progressed sort of as times changed, the social media platforms changed. Obviously with lockdowns and things like that, your interests and other interests of other people change as well. So I didn't just become a content creator overnight. You don't just wake up and think, hey, I'm a content creator today. I've always loved photography. I've been interested in photography when it comes to humans and families and babies. So I started out taking photos of my kids in small shop clothing. They then asked me to create content for them because I loved their brand already. I had a close relationship with them. And then the gifted collaborations started rolling in. More and more companies asked to work with me. And that's when the paid opportunities then arose. Which obviously is great because then that meant that after over about a year, I decided, right, okay, this is now my full-time job. I'm doing so much of this. I'm spending a lot of time researching. I'm doing all the relevant sort of background checks that I need to do. This is now a full-time commitment. And that is sort of when the content creating started, and then it just slowly came into my feed more and more, and that's basically how it started for me.
Perfect, super interesting. And so what do you offer on a day-to-day basis to your community? So you have currently 23K followers on Instagram.
So I think one of the key factors for me is authenticity. So I make sure that I am fully transparent with whatever I do. I think the good, the bad and the ugly. So even on my stories, you're a real person. You are showing everything that's happening day to day. You're not sugarcoating it. You're not putting a filter on everyday life. And I think with the honesty, people can then relate to you, and it's the credibility. It goes back to things like that. They know that you're not just writing out something because that's what the brand wants. You're thinking about all the little things that isn't necessarily written on packaging of products, but how it makes you feel, the after effects, how it changes your whole entire day, what different perspectives of things that people don't necessarily think about, but your everyday consumers will want to know. And I think that I speak regularly with my followers as well. I have a good relationship with a lot of them. And actually, I would class a lot of them as my closest friends now, even though I've never met them, because you just build this rapport with different people, and they want to know about your everyday life. If you don't post for a few hours an answer to a question, they'll message you, is everything okay? How's this going? How's this? Have you used this? What was the after effect of this? So yeah, you're constantly talking and building that rapport with everyone.
Good. And you were saying, Amy, earlier that social media changed. So has your strategy or communication changed, especially since the pandemic?
I think it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. Platforms change, platforms evolve. On Instagram, you have Reels. I think that's a really, really good thing to get into, especially for me, getting the fashion side of things onto my page. The Reels have been amazing. Like improving your reach. I think things like that, obviously different platforms as well, with things like TikTok. They've massively blown up. So for me as a content creator, I'm then learning as I go to evolve and learn with the different platforms. I mean, Instagram is my main go-to, but that doesn't automatically mean that I'm going to break TikTok, for example. You have to do your research. I'm constantly researching, constantly looking at different trends, different hashtags, ways of improving, ways of engaging, and ways of keeping relevant, but keeping sort of your perspective on things. So yeah, I think strategy constantly changes.
All right. And so Zoltan was talking earlier about matchmaking and giving tips to brands, to marketers on how to collaborate with influencers, how to select them, the right profiles. But on with your perspective, on your side, how do you decide on your brand collaborations today?
So I think there's sort of two tiers. I think the first tier is the brand itself and what the brand represents. And the second tier is the product. So sometimes if I've worked with a brand before, I know their background, I know that they are a love brand, I want to work with them, I've worked with them before. So the good communication that you've had in the past really makes a big positive difference. And then the product itself, obviously you want the product that you are sharing to be a trusted product. So I think when you physically got it in your hands and you've done the trials and tests, you then fall in love with the brand even more. But quite often you get brands, for example, that you've never worked with, you've never heard of, that you can't do background research on. So I think that then goes back to the trial and test of the physical product. And sort of you can decide as you go along, sort of when you've got the physical product, that you would like to work with them again. And about the positive PR and the communication, I think it's all very important. And I mean, occasionally there has been a case that I have done background research on a brand and sort of their ethics and things like that don't fit in with my values. So you can politely decline in those situations. But I think it is important to do a little bit of research and actually physically trial and test yourself.
Perfect. And so after you have fallen in love with those brands, how do you spread brand love and engage your followers on Instagram or TikTok?
So I think making it relatable. You have to be relatable. You can't just post a random photo and just list good points about the product. I think when I post, for example, the Gillette ad, I put a question in there. I make people think. I think, oh, hang on, that does relate to me because the answer to that question makes sense. And then you can relate it to, for example, links in your stories to make things easier. Everybody wants things to be easy. They don't want to have to go and do lots and lots of research to try and find this product. if you put a link in your story, it's just a simple swipe up and they're there. They've got all the information. Just staying consistent with ease, relatability, and I think don't overload with information. Obviously, brands want certain things put in there. That's great. You can get all the relevant information without writing a full paragraph that looks like it's been sort of copied off the back of a box. So I think that is very important.
All right, so that's already a super important tip, but what would be the one and only piece of advice for the audience, so our marketing audience today, for a successful brand influencer collaboration leading them to this brand love?
So I think allowing creators to be authentic. So you not to change an influencer's style. If you look at their page and you think, yep, okay, that's the type of thing that I want, don't then ask them to create something else. They've got to stay authentic, otherwise their followers won't be engaging in it. The reach will then drop. And I think that sort of you can get all the relevant information in without making it sound like it's really robotic. So I think just allowing creators to be authentic, putting their own spin on things, because that's why their followers are following them in the first place.
Great. Thanks a lot for your time today, Amy. That was super interesting. And then Zoltan, I think we can proceed with our very last recommendation for marketers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Amy, also from my side for these interesting insights. It must be tough actually to maintain this relationship with so many people and be always there for them. But yeah, this is exactly the human aspect which we were talking about in the previous part of the presentation. So up to now, we have heard why brand love is important. We have seen how we can involve influencers in our communication to create brand love by proper selection and focusing on the 3 E's. We have heard the perspectives of a content creator herself now. There is just one more thing to mention. What is the ultimate strategy to build brand love via influencer marketing? And for this, we at Territory Influence do have a very clear recommendation. Start building your own community. With platforms available to be used as a white label solution, this is possible, absolutely. An own platform helps to connect with your consumers in the long term and make them part of your brand's life. You can involve consumers in co-creating future products or services, or even your future communication. Deep involvement, intensive dialogue with your consumers is a strong pillar for the creation of brand love. Last but not least, you can stimulate peer-to-peer communication on an ongoing basis and encourage the creation of user-generated content by rolling out and managing annual programs. Having a community of brand advocates will, in our opinion, open the doors to create brand love. And we have actually numerous examples to show how this can be done. We have worked with big clients such as Nestlé, Procter & Gamble, Beiersdorf to help them create and entertain their own communities to drive expertise, generate experience and engagement among their consumers, and thus help them act as influencers, advocating their brands and creating brand love among their followers or friends and family members. So we believe that this is the ultimate solution for any company to drive brand love in the long term. So from my side, thank you very much for your attention, and I hand over to Delphine to finish off the webinar.
Thanks, Zoltan. Indeed, that's already time to say almost goodbye. So if we had to summarize, we would say right now that brand love do help. brands to come back stronger from a crisis such as coronavirus by building loyalty advocacy. We have even seen with Rami that it can help brands to have a premium pricing. We have checked the rankings. They were pretty unique across the globe, but overall, Huda Beauty, Mulinex, and MAC Cosmetics were the top 3 and aligned with global trends, consumer needs, and the 11 ingredients for success that Talkwalker has observed and created. And we have seen that influencer marketing is one of the most important keys within these 11 ingredients. And as Zoltan explained, activated as true advocates, as ambassadors, influencer can really turn in a powerful but authentic way their personal network and online followers into brand lovers. So they are really spreading, sharing love in an authentic and powerful way. Of course, there are plenty of tips for you marketers to do it properly in 2021, but also in the further, the upcoming years. So there is, of course, this matchmaking, the selection that is super critical. But then we also have these 3 E's, expertise, experience, engagement, that are necessary activation steps for you for your successful campaign. And as we have seen right now, it's not only about one-shot campaigns, it's also about series of collaborations, building long-term partnerships with those humans to really humanize your communications, your marketing, even beyond the promotion and the communication stuff, with really co-creating, building products, services, even your own communications, so really involving consumer influencers, so going really beyond like Nestle, P&G, and Beiersdorf are doing right now with territory influence. You have here our contact details. So if you are interested in more information, please do reach out. So you have the Hello Influencer Territory group to reach out to Zoltan and myself. And Rami Deep here, so r.deep@talkwalker.com if you want to have more information regarding the social listening tool of Talkwalker and their report. The report is also available online on their website. You can download it for free. Do not hesitate, and we are here if you want to continue the discussion. I've seen no question in the chat, so we can really continue this discussion per email or per phone. This will be a pleasure. Do not hesitate. And that being said, again, big thanks for your participation, for your time. Big thanks for our speakers today, so Zoltan, Rami, and Amy. It was a pleasure. I wish you all a very nice day. And again, we are here to help, to support, to advise if you have questions for Talkwalker and Territory Influence. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.